Did you know that there are some bizarre scenes from SpongeBob that had to be cut? SpongeBob is a cute and childish cartoon, right? Well, not quite for everyone. In Poland, for instance, they cut out a scene from the episode Jellyfishing, in which Patrick simply crosses the tentacles of the squid clam with a net for catching sea creatures.
Firmly grasp it! That'll do it.
They deemed it too violent and felt sorry for poor Squidward tentacles. We have many other scenes to show you, so sit tight and get ready for another personal video. And what if I told you that there was an episode of SpongeBob that got censored? Would you believe it? Well, that's exactly what happened with the 28th episode of season 3 of the cartoon. A scene was deemed inappropriate for children. It's this one right here.
I guess you're gonna miss the panty raid. The what?
Because of the dialogue being considered too mature, the episode was not aired in any country on the Nickelodeon channel, SNAIL. In this episode, we see SpongeBob writing a letter by hand, but a typo happens due to Gary's goo. One idea developed by this episode involved Gary being responsible for delivering the letters himself. However, the production team likely felt that showing cruelty to a pet would not be well received.
So sad.
And this scene was cut from the final episode, Hooks. In this episode, Patrick eats the cheese off of Hooks, but several scenes were cut in the UK. Whenever Patrick put the hooks in his mouth, those scenes were deleted, and only the immediate sequence was shown. The original version looked like this.
Cheesy. No danger here. Go on, try it.
But Mr. Krabs said...
Lighten up, will you?
Mr. Krabs said...
SpongeBob, let me ask you something. Does this look dangerous?
It was definitely a bit strange. Snowball effect. In this episode, it starts snowing in Bikini Bottom, due to an iceberg above the city. However, the scene that was cut was never actually animated. The production director, Adam Paloin, posted some storyboard footage of the episode, where we see a bizarre scene. It's a Squidward torture room for snowmen, complete with a guillotine and even the head of a snowman stuck on a hook, like something out of a horror movie. Adam even posted a color version of the scene, but it never made it to air. Yeah, that scene was definitely cut. Dungeons and Dragons. Recently, there have been a lot of posts on the internet showing what cartoon characters would look like if they were human or real. However, what few people know is that in a script for the episode Dungeons and Dragons, when Patrick and SpongeBob travel back in time, there were human versions of SpongeBob and Patrick shown. But the scene was cut and never produced, just one bite. In this episode, we see Squidward trying a Krabby Patty for the first time. He goes to the Krusty Krab at night to try the burger, but when he enters, the security system tries to stop him. The system is actually a bucket of gasoline on top of the entrance door, and another on the top of the kitchen door. A robot hand then sets Squidward on fire. To prevent children from imitating this dangerous behavior, Nickelodeon decided to remove this scene from future airings of the episode. In the censored version, the scene goes from Squidward at the door to him being at the vault door. Untied shoes. There are some jokes in SpongeBob that we only understand when we get older. One of them is in the episode Untied Shoes. In it, we see SpongeBob watching TV quietly in his house. But when Gary approaches, he withdraws quickly, looking disconcerted and nervous. It's clear that what he was watching was somewhat inappropriate. However, in countries like the United Kingdom, Turkey and India, this scene was cut, going straight to the part where SpongeBob has already switched channels. I really don't know if this is appropriate for kids, since even Gary couldn't see it. Larry's gym. Despite not appearing much in the cartoon, we all know Larry, that muscular and self-confident lobster. In this episode, as its name says, Larry decides to open his gym in the Bikini Bottom. And in a scene that never aired, we see him really pushing the envelope with a poor fish. We see him comparing eating donuts to eating glass, and how both things are bad for health. You can watch the scene here. He just puts a glass in a guy's mouth, breaks it, and forces him to chew. That really was a heavy situation. The SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run. The premise of the film has always been to rescue Gary, SpongeBob's pet snail. The interesting thing is that throughout the film some ideas were put and taken from the script of the film, And one of the ideas cut from the final project that had his storyboard demonstrated was one in which space cats literally kidnapped poor Bob's pet. You can watch the scene here. This group would break into Bikini Bottom and take not only Gary, but SpongeBob as well, as the idea never went forward. We'll never know how the space adventure of the pair would be. Fun. In this episode, we see SpongeBob approaching the violent Plankton and try to show him how fun it is to hunt for living waters, and then release them back into the wild. In a sketch of the cartoon, we see a scene that fortunately ended up being discarded. In it, we see Plankton using the net in a different way and simulating a weapon. At the same time, he says something like, "Let's kill the living waters." You can watch the scene here. You can see Bob's horror face. So I think some kids might have the same reaction. That part was cut. It never really got off the paper. Neptune's moon. In this episode, we see a phenomenon that happens every 100 years in the Bikini Bottom. In them, we see a strange green ball, turning all the inhabitants of the city into their original and wild versions. But in a sketch that came out on the internet, we see what the designers had planned for Plankton at this time. You can watch the scene here. Right now we see that Karen, who's not a biological being and suffers none of the effects of Neptune's moon. She simply takes the little speck of slime that Plankton has transformed, crushes it, and throws it away. This scene was considered somewhat inappropriate for children, as it could pass the feeling that the Plankton would have packaged, literally, bubbles of Squidward tentacles. In one episode, we see Squidward attempting to create a bit of intrigue between SpongeBob and Patrick using bubbles. However, this episode contains a scene that was censored in several European countries. We're referring to the scene in which Squidward is literally choking on the fork he was using to create the bubbles of the squid. Here's the original scene. This episode was actually suspended in several countries and only released after the scene was edited. The fork was removed from Squidward Tentacle's neck, and it appears that he choked on the cake, or just his own wickedness. The next scene ended up looking like this. Ripped pants. Lastly, we have two instances of censorship in the same episode that created a buzz in some countries. In the Ripped Pants episode, there were censorship in two countries, Italy and India. The reasons for the censorship were different, and we'll explain what they were. To better understand, let's remember that in this episode, SpongeBob uses his ripped pants to make everyone laugh at him. It becomes so popular that he even gets a band and a song about his ripped pants. However, in the Italian version, the song was partially censored. The part that was cut out lasts only 5 seconds, and it's not clear why it was censored, but it may have something to do with the song's lyrics. Here's the censored part. Here's the original song.
I know I shouldn't mope around, I shouldn't curse, but the pain feels so much worse.
Ripped Pants 2. In the Indian version, the episode was shown in its entirety, but with some blurs in the part that shows the ripped pants. Here's what it looks like. Even a black stripe was used, which suggests something worse than what was actually depicted if the pants had been shown as torn. Hey guys, so those were the 15 scenes from SpongeBob that got cut or censored. Some of them were not kid-friendly, while others were changed for different reasons. Which scene did you find the most noticeable? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, huh? See you next time. Bye!